Three, two, one.
Let's go.
Cheers.
All right, cheers. Welcome to episode 2, which is the third episode of the Gamerbuzz podcast. We decided to go the Star Wars route of numbering and just make it as confusing as possible.
The Resident Evil route.
Ooh, yes, Resident Evil 0. Mm-hmm. Yes.
More appropriate.
Yep. So we are gathered here today to speak about games, some more our collection. But as always, we'll start with what we are drinking. And Brett, since you are the beer provider, why don't you tell us what we're drinking?
So this one is the Easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. So I guess this is actually brewed in Iowa City. It's not from the Solon place, but I think the Solon Brewery is the original one.
Sorry, I'm doing my Vanna White.
Perfect, yes. But this is Easy Eddie. So this is just a fresh and juicy hazy IPA. Generally, I like a hazy IPA.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I can't really articulate why. Maybe it's just like, oh, it's hazy, so it's got more fruit in it or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's citrusy. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
It feels, for me, it feels fresh. Like it's just a fresher taste, which
maybe it's a little less bitter. I don't know, but this is a good one. So the original location for Big Grove is in Solon, Iowa. Have you ever been to the Solon, Iowa restaurant?
No.
Oh,
I've been to Solon, Iowa. Okay.
So yeah, that's where it's originated from. But...
That's where Clay grew up.
Oh, really?
Solon?
Okay.
Yep.
Huh. So somebody originally told me that Big Grove had the best tater tot casserole they'd ever had. And I was like, okay.
It's an odd claim to fame, but sure.
And I went there, and they were right, and it's delicious. So if you ever go to Big Grove, because each Big Grove has a different menu, I think.
Yeah.
So there's a Big Grove in Iowa City, which is where this is brewed at. Mm-hmm. That's more of like a cafeteria style, where the one in Solon's more sit down.
Okay.
So yeah, they have a slightly different menu, but
okay.
Great beer, great place to go eat. So check it out. I think would they
please sponsor us, Big Grove Brewery?
Isn't there one in Cedar Rapids now?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I went there.
Is it off the interstate downtown?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Delicious.
So we're going to start off as usual. Well, secondary start off. We're going to second off with some show and tell, and I'm going to let you kick us off because you got some cool things over there.
So I was looking through my game room, and I was trying to find something unique and kind of weird to bring in, because I'm unique and weird. Seth, what is this?
That is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine for the
Okay.
Sega Genesis.
It's not particularly weird. It's just a Sega Genesis game, right? So Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is actually a Puyo Pop game.
Oh,
it's been reskinned to be a Dr. Robotnik's Mean
I knew
Bean
there was
Machine.
something about it.
Yeah, so it's Puyo Pop. So it's a type of puzzle game that it's similar to Tetris, but maybe closer to like Dr. Mario, kind of. But it's kind of
if
its
you
own
have
thing.
Nintendo Switch Online, they have Puyo Pop
Puyo
on
Pop,
the
yeah.
Super Nintendo. Did we get any? Is this the only English Puyo Pop that we got?
I think originally.
Yeah.
There may have been other ones, but yeah. So this is basically reskinned with the North American Sonic kind of cartoon or comic characters. That's why Dr. Robotnik is very fugly looking.
Yeah, he looks like he's made out of clay.
I think, the North American designs for the Sonic stuff. You're ruining it.
I'm sorry.
You're ruining the
My
surprise.
first instinct is to open.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So I actually got this from Steven, my friend from when I was a kid. His mom at one point had like a thrift store or something, was doing thrifting type stuff. So this is actually sealed when I originally got it, and I kept it sealed for a long time. Now, I don't really like this game, and I hate the art style. I think it is disgusting, right? Yep. But it has an interesting thing inside that you probably just saw. And maybe you didn't know what it was, but...
Nope.
So let me open it up here. It's got the beautiful Sega Genesis hard plastic clamshell here.
With the damn tab.
Oh, no, it's beautiful. I mean, you can... maybe you can't pop those off, but so we've got the Sega kind of inserts here. We've got the manual, nice Sega manual, the cartridge. Which I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but have you ever noticed that eventually Sega or some Sega Genesis cartridge labels start to look kind of greasy or just like it must be something to do with the glue or something.
The glue that they use. That's what I always assumed.
And since this was originally sealed when I got it, I don't know when this would have actually been printed. Says 93 on it. This could have been a later printing or reprint. There's something weird inside. This is a fruit roll-up. Okay? This is a fruit roll-up, unopened, presumably from the 90s.
Free sample.
Could be full of all kinds of botulism and things you would not want to eat. It kind of looks like a tampon. But I have been able to keep this in this box. Does it smell like anything? It's probably still just perfectly sealed. I don't know, but
it must be perfectly sealed because I don't smell anything.
Yeah. So,
free sample with this video game.
At one point, I think the sealed version of it was like $30. I've never gone back to check to see how much it's worth. I don't think this game is particularly rare, but yeah, this is my rarest fruit roll-up that I owe. This is a vintage classic fruit roll-up that came free.
The rarest fruit roll-up known to mankind.
Do you have vintage fruit roll-ups?
I don't have any vintage fruit roll-ups. It's one thing I'm missing. What I'd like to know with this too is was there a line of video games that came with fruit roll-ups? Can I get the complete video game fruit roll-up collection?
To be honest, I've never gotten the story of what is going on here. There's no indication on the outside cover that, hey, there's a fruit roll-up in here.
If you know anything about the fruit roll-ups in video games, please leave it in the comments and let us know.
Let me know.
Because it's cool, but no idea what it is.
Yeah. So that was my show and tell, my secret forbidden fruit roll-up.
The forbidden fruit roll-up.
The forbidden fruit roll-up. Love it. All right, Seth, what do you got for us?
Okay, so I talked in our first episode a little bit about my first M-rated game. Mm-hmm. The Turok series, which I have grown with. There's one Turok thing I didn't add. Can you grab it over there? It's on 360. Should be over there. Unless it's on the stack down there. I'm not great at organizing everything, and I've recently moved things. But anyways, as a child, my first M-rated game was Turok, and it was my favorite video game at the time. This is not representative of the Turok series as I love it, but we will include it. Anyways, and I remember, so when I got to be a teenager, I really did deep dives into like the history of things and like where did this come from and how did it first come around. Can you do one more thing for me? Can you go grab off the shelf? Because that's a better representation of its original form. So Turok for the Nintendo 64 and its later Xbox 360 ports. There should be a comic. Turok. It's in the middle there. Yep. So it came originally from a comic book series. And some people may know the deep cut, like, oh yeah, Dark Horse Comics did a comic book line run after Acclaim bought them. No. We're talking the very first line of Turok Comics came from Gold Key Comics, who was owned by...
No idea.
Disney.
Oh, really?
Thanks, Disney, for Turok. Turok was really brought to us by Disney.
Interesting.
And I'm looking for the first year, 1957.
Wow.
Turok, Son of Stone.
I'm sure it's very culturally sensitive as well.
Yeah, right. Oh, I'm sure. Very respectful to the indigenous nation. But this is... No, not Gold Key. I'm sorry, Dell. I know Gold Key did a run... but I do know that Disney was involved in the early days of Turok. So this is the cover art for the very first Turok comic. And for those of you just listening to the audio, it's a very old art. It's gorgeous art, right? Like it's very, very gorgeous, very dark, and had that. I mean, if you ever saw like. It reminds me of the art style. If you ever saw those like 50s ads of like a guy with his Chrysler car, like the very square jaw, high cheekbone,
very hand painted kind of look to it. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, so this is it. And then eventually, Valiant Comics. So this is a reprint. This isn't actually from the 50s. This is a Dark Horse Comics reprint that they did in the mid 2010s, like 2015, 2016. I haven't read through all of that though. But then, so I don't collect comic books. I'm not a big comic book collector.
I don't either.
I think at a time I wished I could, but just superheroes have never been my thing. I like the early days of the Marvel movies as much as the next guy, just as fun, just kind of comfort blockbuster movie. But yeah, superheroes I'm not into, and by that comics. But Then I got into collecting the Turok comic books. So I won't show all of these, but I'll show a few of them. I like this one because it has like a holographic front on it.
Shiny.
And so there was the Valiant run, and then Valiant started doing crossovers. So a lot of people might not know Turok, but they might know Bloodshot. He's the guy. Vin Diesel did a Bloodshot movie, a few years ago. It was apparently terrible.
Wow, what is that one?
Do you know Shadow Man?
I know it by name. I don't know anything about it though.
This is a Turok Shadow Man crossover.
That cover looks super metal.
Dude, it's dope. Yeah, it's here. Take a look at that. Leaf through that.
Wow.
And there actually was Valiant's equivalent. I can't remember what they were called, but it was Valiant's equivalent of the Avengers, which was a bunch of their comic book heroes, which included Turok.
Really?
And Turok, I haven't looked too deep into it, but Turok was a lot of the premise for the reason it was all able to happen, because Turok really revolves around kind of like hopping through realities.
Right.
Here's a cool one that has Joshua Fireseed, but Joshua Fireseed was the main character of a lot of the Turok comics after the video games released.
Wait, so who's Turok then?
Turok is a title.
Oh,
so there are many Turoks.
The Turok.
So when you play the first game, that Turok's name is actually Talset.
Okay, I know that name.
Yep, and then in the second game, it is Joshua Fireseed.
Oh,
and
okay.
in the third game, Time Walker is another Valiant character, and that is with Turok and Time Walker. And I have two... No, I don't have two. These are just very similar covers.
Oh, yeah, it's like two halves of the...
Yep.
Huh.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
Now, is this Talset and
Talset and Joshua Fireseed. Yep.
Here, I'll show.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Here.
I appreciate that.
Got a set.
Yep. And
there you go.
Beautiful. So there was also a few Game Boy runs. So there is Turok 2 Seeds of Evil on the Game Boy, and it is a very slow, deliberate side-scroller shoot-'em-up. And then...
Not a shmup, but
not a shmup, sorry.
Shooter, kind of.
Yeah, like Contra or like a RoboCop on the NES. I'd say that's probably the similar thing that I can compare it to. And then there are these two N64 games, Turok and Turok 2. I do have my eye on a copy of Turok 3, Shadow of Oblivion.
Is that expensive or?
It's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Artie actually has a copy of a toy layer right now.
Ooh.
And yeah, since I'm, working part-time and going to school right now, I don't have a lot of like spending money on games, but I tried going there to sell some stuff. A lot of it didn't have a lot of value, so I ended up getting a copy of a Final Fantasy game for PSP, but I need to take some stuff in there and really see if it'll give me anything for it to complete that.
Plenty of fuel for whatever you want.
I do. He actually has Shadow of Oblivion and Rage Wars complete in box.
Oh wow.
If I got Rage Wars, it would literally be just to complete the collection because I don't love that game by any means. And then finally, and I want to reiterate, this isn't a complete Turok collection. I'm missing. What am I missing? I think I have every game, but I don't. Some of the games I don't have in box. So it's a complete video game collection. There is another Game Boy game that I don't have with me right here, but this is the Xbox 360 Turok. It was a reboot that really just was trying to cash in on the Gears of War hype. It's not great. It was good enough. Like, I play through it still every once in a while. It had good modern shooting mechanics, and it had excellent environment. So it took a lot from Crysis and its jungle environment. Like, you can see it was heavily inspired by, like, really lush jungles, and you could see, like, there were, like, the T-Rex. They put a lot of work into animating the T-Rex, and it looked really good. There are really excellent things about the Turok 360 video game, enough to make me bummed that they canceled the sequel.
Now, there's a GameCube game, isn't there, or no?
Ooh, okay, yeah, I am missing that game.
I wasn't
Turok
sure if that
Evolution.
was the same thing. Evolution, yeah.
Yep, Turok Evolution. Yeah. I would say that one is worse than this one.
I've heard that,
That one's bad.
That's the one I was thinking of that was bad.
I think Oblivion by some people is considered bad. Shadow of Oblivion is considered bad by some people, which again, I have that one, but it's cartridge only. And it took a lot from, like, it wanted to be like kind of a Half-Life clone.
Okay.
Which, to be fair, what it did on the Nintendo 64 was really impressive. Like, a lot of the split paths, the two different characters, and one of them gets a grappling hook.
Wow.
And yeah, and it had some light physics manipulation, and the graphics were, you could actually do widescreen, like with the
really?
expansion pack, you could do like a widescreen, what it called high def graphics, which made the frame rate chug like a screen slideshow. But it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And I definitely recommend and then Night Dive Studios came and remastered them all.
Night Dive is good. I'm trying to think, did they have something to do with Prey? There's some game I like that has something to do with Night Dive. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, they remastered. They just did the first two. And then, the took them forever to do Oblivion. That was weird because the first two games had source code for PC because they had PC ports.
Okay.
Oblivion had layers of issues why that took so long. One, I think there were rights issues, like copyright issues.
Really?
I don't know if it was copyright issues but some sort of like who owned it and who had the rights to let it go. And that one also never had a PC port, so they basically had, I don't know if they reverse engineered it from the ends. I don't know how they did it, but that one only was ever on the N64.
Okay.
So that one had a lot of issues as well. But their ports of 1 and 2 are incredible, and I'm sure the third one is amazing as well. So yeah, that is my weird, oddly semi-complete collection of Turok stuff, because I absolutely love the Turok series. So,
I think the only one I own is Dinosaur Hunter.
I mean, if you only own one, that's the one to own. Like, that's the best representation of what makes the Turok series great.
I think at one point I had Rage Wars, but it was like a loose cart, and yeah. Is Rage Wars multiplayer only, or it's multiplayer focused?
It's multiplayer focused.
Okay.
But there's a glitch where you cannot finish the game.
Right.
Because of some multiplayer thing. I can't remember what it is exactly.
That sounds familiar. I think I played it with my sister, maybe.
Yep.
So yeah, I remember playing that one.
Yep.
There's chickens and monkeys in it.
Yep.
Yep.
There's a monkey in the first game, but you can't kill it. So, yeah,
Rage monkeys.
Rage monkeys. Because you can't, like, there's a little, in the first game, there's a little monkey that kind of runs and scurries up a tree. And I just remember as a child, like, being like, every time I try and shoot it, and you couldn't. Like, I knew I wouldn't be able to, but it was almost ritualistic.
Kill that monkey.
Like, shooting the dog in okay, yeah, that's a terrible way to start that. But okay, you can't tell me you didn't try to shoot the dog and duck hunt it. Like, when the duck came around, bam, 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 bam. But in the arcade version, you could shoot the dog.
Really?
Yes, it would do a little animation and
okay.
Yep. On the arcade version, you could shoot the dog. So
wait, so the Play Choice 10 version, is there a Play Choice 10 version, or is it an arcade version of Duck Hunt?
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm going off very limited information.
For people who don't know, there's actually like an arcade version of the NES called the Play Choice, and there's a Play Choice 10, where basically you would have arcade version. I think it's actually just the same game, but you have arcade boards instead of NES cartridges. And I think there's one at Super Marion Arcade here in Cedar Rapids, Marion area, but that'd be another fun thing to go check out arcades here in Cedar Rapids and get some footage of that.
We have a couple decent ones. I mean,
do,
I'm not in love with the era that Quarter Barrel has, but it's good. Like, if you're into that area, that's excellent quality. It has an excellent selection.
So Quarter Barrel has more of like 80s stuff.
We like late 90s.
Yeah, 90s era stuff. And 90s era stuff is kind of like what I collect as far as arcade games, and that's what I'm into. So, yeah.
I would love. I think, the couple arcade cabinets that I want. I don't want to collect arcade. I don't want to get into that, but I would love to own. I would love Virtualon, which I came very close to coming home with that one time.
Ooh, I'm glad you didn't though.
Yeah, it was a beast.
I mean, that's this. I don't know if it's the same cabinet as the Sega Rally, but it's a giant 2-player sit-down cabinet.
Yep.
And I think that was at the auction at in
Adventureland.
Yeah. So there's an arcade auction I think they did it twice a year, maybe. It's in Altoona.
I haven't been there for a long time.
I haven't either, just because I have no interest in looking around arcade games anymore. Yeah. But that one wasn't working either, was it?
It was one of those things where like it might be something that's fixable.
Yeah,
but it just
you never know until you get it home. Really, I've had stuff that didn't work and just like something was unconnected or disconnected, and that was all it was. But
but that's okay because now I have it for Dreamcast.
Yep.
I don't see it right here. That's okay.
Is there also a Saturn version, I think, right?
There is.
Okay.
Yep. And I think I downloaded it, so I'm doing my big like archiving project on 360.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a 360. I think it's a remaster of the Saturn one.
Okay.
Which I need to get on because for just a countdown, the 29th, so we only have 19 more days until the Xbox storefront, Xbox 360 storefront shuts down. So I will be doing that here over the next couple weeks, once a week, just kind of downloading some stuff. So keep an eye on my Twitch. I'll be doing that, downloading some more. So Brett, what have you been playing?
So I think last time I told you I beat Dark Souls, and for a while there I couldn't really find anything that I was super into, but I have since moved my PC back into my office so I can do mouse and keyboard games rather than just controller stuff. And I started a new playthrough of the game Prey. So now there's the original Prey. Do you have Prey?
I don't.
Okay.
Nope. So yes I do. Sorry, the 360 version of Prey?
Yeah. Right there.
Right there.
So this is not the game I'm talking about, but much like Turok, that's kind of a Turok type game.
He plays a Native American.
He plays a Native American, but so the game is called Prey. He plays a Native American. He's abducted by aliens, and the game I'm talking about has nothing to do with that. I'm not sure why they even decided to call it the same thing.
It'd be interesting to learn the history of that.
Yeah,
because there is something.
I'm trying to think. No, I think Dead Space actually started out as a sequel to System Shock, which is why it's so close to that. I didn't know that. But Prey is basically the spiritual successor to System Shock. So both of these games, System Shock and Prey, are immersive sims, is what the genre is called. So it's something like another good example is like Deus Ex. Can you think of any other good examples like that?
Oh yeah, I mean anything by Arcane. The Thief series was really one of the first ones that started it. And then there's one that I've been playing, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Yeah, yep. That one's really, really good. I highly encourage you to. I know you're not into generic fantasy.
I think I have it.
Do you?
I think I have it for PC, yeah. I was actually thinking about it the other day, just because I know it's by Arcane.
Yep.
So Arcane Studios made the game Prey. It has nothing to do with this game, so I don't even know why I mentioned it. But it's one of my favorite games of the last 10 years. I'm trying to think, were you the one that got me to play it?
I think so. I think you mentioned it because you were talking about immersive sims, like BioShock and stuff like that.
Yeah, so BioShock is another good example where BioShock's a little bit more of a light kind of immersive sim.
Yeah.
But usually they're first person, not necessarily an open world, but maybe a little bit more open than something that's more linear.
They're probably closer to like a Metroidvania, usually.
Yeah, kind of something like that. Where generally you have multiple options of how to
search action, I guess is what they're calling it now.
Who calls it that?
That's the genre.
That's what they call it.
That's the official, the actual search genre name for Metroidvania is search action.
Okay,
I don't know where it comes from, but
so Prey is one of these games where basically you have multiple options of how to tackle any problem. So say you have a locked door, you can either find the key, which is boring. You can hack the keypad, which is a little less boring. But Prey is fun because it deals with you're on a space station and then there's aliens, and some of these aliens, I forget what they're called.
Mimics?
Well, so there's a type of alien called mimics, but there's some name for the aliens, I forget what it is. But the mimics can turn into any object in the environment.
Yep.
So a good example is you walk into an office, and there'll be a chair, and there'll be another chair that doesn't quite fit in, and as you approach it, all of a sudden a mimic pops out and attacks you.
Yep. And there's some
scares crap out of you.
There's some like radiance to it, right? Or there's some like when you play through, it could be a different thing or in a different place, and it kind of learns
as they kind of run around. They can change into things that are closer to them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you eventually get some of the powers of these aliens, so you can actually start to mimic things. So say this door that you're trying to get through. say there's a little slit in the door that you can't fit through, but you can turn into a coffee mug and roll your way through the door. So it's just so fun because it's the type of game that every time you play it, you can kind of play it differently. Yeah. God, I love it. I love the vibe of it. I'm trying to think of like horror movies that it's kind of like, but it's kind of horror sci-fi,
or adjacent.
Yeah, it's not like super scary, but it definitely has that kind of thing going on.
It's the tension.
It's a very tense game, yeah. And it's the kind of game that will screw with your mind, and I love it. Like I won't spoil the beginning of the game, but the beginning of the game is like I'll say 20 minutes in. I knew I loved the game.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Just because I knew, or I loved what it did to me. Yep. And the same thing, as you go through the game, it's just like you get your mind, you get mind effed. I'll say 100%. The PG version of it. But it's so good. The mechanics feel so good. It's so fun to play. There are so many good kind of mini stories in the game. It's just so well written, and that's something that Arcane is known for. So, did you ever play the Dishonored series?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So my sister Megan, she actually loves the Dishonored series, but it's good. I don't think she's ever played Prey, but it's the same thing where they're known for like really good writing, just like very thought out, thoughtful stories and characters and stuff. Mm-hmm. I just love the crap out of playing it. It's just one of those games that just feels good to run around and play.
And then Redfall happened.
Yeah, and Arcade Studios just shit the bed real bad here recently. Yeah. But at least I got Prey. It wasn't a super popular game. I think it reviewed maybe like 8 out of 10s kind of. Yeah. But I'd say it's like a 9.5 out of 10 for myself. Like I like it that much. I'm picky. I'm a picky guy.
That's okay.
I love it. But
that's okay.
Yep.
I would like to say
that. One more thing.
No, please.
I'm almost positive. I think is it Mick Gordon that did the Doom soundtrack? I think he did the music for Prey. But maybe we'll have to check this. But the music is good. It's not like Doom where it's like really kind of like awesome and you can listen to it kind of outside the game, but very atmospheric and lots of synthy stuff. And one thing about me is I love synthesizers. Is that right?
Yep. In 2017, Gordon completed the score for the horror first-person shooter Prey.
Okay, well, they're calling it horror, so we'll go with that.
There you go.
But, yeah, it's great. Check it out if you haven't seen it. I don't know how much it is on Steam, but if it's $20, it would be a steal, okay?
Like, oh, man, with Steam summer sales, I bet it goes on sale for like $2 at some point.
Before I forget, I think Left 4 Dead is like $2 on the Steam summer sale, and I think it either ends tomorrow or the next day. So
is Left 4 Dead 2 on there?
I think it's both of them.
Okay, you might just
both
well
of them
just
for
get
$2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have to go home and buy that, but make sure you get that so I can play that.
Yep.
But,
yep.
Okay,
nope, that sounds good.
What are you currently playing here?
Dragon Age still. I feel like I brought it up every episode. I don't feel like there's a lot of.
No, it's okay.
I would like to, before I get into this, I was just talking about how I'm not crazy about comic books and superheroes. Mm-hmm. Here I am with my Marvel.
You poser! Wait.
I don't. There's one that I don't know. I think that's okay. So yeah, there's one that I don't know, and I think it's this one.
Huh. I am not a comic book person.
Sorry, if you're wondering which one, I don't know who. It's like a weird gold scepter.
Yeah.
And then Black Widow. No, that's Black Widow, and I don't know who that is.
Wait, is that not Spider-Man?
I thought that was Black Widow. No, Spider-Man's Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man and his pet spider. Right? That's why they call him Spider-Man, right? I am not a fan of American comic books or superhero movies in general. No. There are a few exceptions. I like X-Men and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, the whole Avengers thing.
The Deadpool movies are good.
Deadpool's good, but Deadpool is like X-Men adjacent, so that makes it good.
Yep.
But no, Deadpool's good on something.
But yeah, I've been playing a lot of Dragon Age. I just beat Dragon Age Origins, the base game of the first game.
Okay.
And I did... That's one of those games where a playthrough is going to be 30 to 40 hours, but it's easy to spend hundreds of hours on multiple playthroughs, just like on all the different backgrounds that you can do. But not just the games. I recently finished every single book. So there's 5 novels. The first 3 written by David Gator, who actually had to do with the writing of the games.
Okay.
And then I think David Gator, I don't know if he worked for BioWare or he was just a writer that they outsourced to come up with stories and characters. But yeah, but then the last 2 books, The Masked Empires is my least favorite, and then Flight of the Griffin, The Last Flight. Those were written by other people, but I'm a big audiobook person, so
Me too.
It's very, very difficult for me to sit down and if I cannot read and sit still and read for more than 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But I will listen to an audiobook for 4 hours. I can sit for 4 hours and listen to an audiobook. Absolutely no problem. So don't let anyone tell you that audiobooks aren't legit and valid. If you've read the audiobook or if you've listened to the audiobook, you've read the book. You don't need to qualify that statement. You've read the book.
I agree, because a lot of my favorite books, like Neuromancer. Neuromancer is one of my favorite novels of all time.
Yep.
I own the novel, but I've never actually read it, but I've listened to the audiobook 10 times probably, and I love it.
But it's really hard to say anything about Dragon Age that hasn't already been said. It's really, I would say Dragon Age Origins, in combination with the first Mass Effect, was one of the last games from BioWare's era of greatness, peak absolute greatness, because every other Dragon Age game has been very different. It's getting slowly more marketable and action focused.
Yeah, they're not dumbing it down, but kind of streamlining it, I'm sure.
Yeah. In some ways, in many ways, Inquisition is incredible. But it's for its detailed storytelling and character writing and gameplay. It's much more filler is the problem. So I would say if that game were more of a tight-knit 35 to 40 hour experience, it would be almost as good as Origins. But there's just so much. Pick up this journal, pick up that journal, and it points you to a mark on the map where you go touch that mark on the map and you finish that quest, and it's less detailed and thought out.
I'm a big fan of things that are concise. Like, I hate filler. I like things that are boiled down to their not base components, but just give me that nice sauce.
The best part.
I don't want to, give me that nice boiled down sauce. Don't give me a watery soup, you know?
No, 100%. One thing that the first Dragon Age has that I really think would appeal to you, and it's because you really like Final Fantasy 12.
The Gambit system.
The Gambit system. It has something very similar to that, where you can really...
Yeah, I think you told me
very specifically detail how all of your different characters act and what they do in specifics. Like self, under 50%, use item, potion, like that, just different layers of commands.
You're kind of like programming. Programming you and your companions to do certain things under certain circumstances.
100%.
Okay, I can dig that.
I've been thinking about booting up not the second game, but Guild Wars. Wars
really?
1. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just been that's the first MMO that I ever played, and it was the only one. I never beat it, but it was the only one that ever really hooked me. So that's I haven't booted it up yet, but I can't imagine buying it and all of its expansions is super expensive. And it still has a community right now.
Maybe it's free to play. I don't know.
It's free to play. You have to pay to download it though. I think you have to pay for the game.
Gotcha.
It's always been that way. Like when WoW came out, you never had to pay a subscription for Guild Wars. It was always
okay. That's right.
It might have switched to a pay to play model though, where you could download it for free and pay. I don't know. I don't know specifically what models it's gone through.
I think I played 2 when it first came out, and just I never got very far into it. But doing an MMO kind of show would be a good one.
I'd like that.
I haven't played a ton, but I played enough to be interesting. But not to give away that show, I guess. But I remember I did play Guild Wars when you had it at your parents' house.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I somehow led somebody out somewhere, telling them I was going to show them something important, and then I didn't kill him or anything, but I just led him out to this ledge and just pointed off the ledge and just made up some bullshit story. It was like, out there yonder is such and such and such. And the person's just like, what's going on? But that's the thing is, in games like that, I just end up trolling people, not in a mean way, but I just screwing around.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So you did that to someone?
Yeah, you were there.
Was this before or after I did that to you in Mario 64?
No, it was before that. Yeah, I think it was before that.
Okay, so I don't even feel an ounce of remorse for that anymore.
No, but I didn't. I wasted the person's time. I didn't kill him.
Okay. So Brett did not grow up playing Super Mario 64.
Not as a kid. No.
Not as a kid.
As a teenager, I got it later.
And so he got it later, and I did grow up playing it. Like I really, really liked it. So there's this area in one of the snow levels. It's the first snow level that's like really tall. It has a lot of verticality to it, and it's in the area where there's a little penguin outside of the chimney that can go down and do the slide race.
Yeah.
And to the left of that, there's this oddly placed just streak in the ground that goes out towards the ledge. And I was like, oh, Brett, I know that there's this secret. So if you know this, can you do the Z jump? He's like, yeah, I can do the Z jump. I was like, okay, so you got to run along that and you have to do a Z jump across that streak in the ground. And I swear to God, this is after you had done something like gotten 5 or 6 of the red coins, or like was in the middle of something and it killed him and he had to start all over. I don't know. I don't know a really great way to end that story, but it was very satisfying.
Are you proud of yourself?
I don't know. I shouldn't be, but I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, I trolled him, got him to jump off a ledge, wasting a lot of time, and it was good.
Yeah,
it was good. So anyways, yeah, I've been playing a lot of Dragon Age, thinking about getting back into Guild Wars. So the Gothic series. Gothic is one of those series that, like, I would start playing at, like, 10 at night and just be like, the sun's coming up, like, playing. Like, back when I used to hang out over at Jesse's place, and he had a game that could play PC.
Oh, he had Gothic.
He did. Well, I got it for him, because my PC couldn't play it, but I really wanted to, so I was like, oh, I got this for you. Okay, step aside. I'm gonna play this.
It's like me and R-Type 3.
Yes.
R-Type Final 3.
Yeah, with my PS5. Yeah, 100%.
I don't have a PS5.
So yeah, I've been playing. So they recently ported them to Switch, and they're actually really good ports, which is crazy because they are PC games. Like Gothic is a PC game, and it's very Eurojank.
Yep.
But I honestly, to this day, like current modern video games, there are not a lot of video games that match Gothic in its level of presentation and just living, breathing world, and the way that you can push the world and it pushes back on you. Like go to the, to self-promote here a little bit, please go read my article on my review of Gothic 1 on Switch. Just the atmosphere and the way this world feels alive. And Gothic 1 did it so amazing, and then just 1 year later, Gothic 2 was like, hold my beer. Like it's literally has the entire map of Gothic 1, but then has a full city and little towns and villages. Because Gothic 1 was just like a mining, like a little mining colony with very, like, 3 small villages and a lot of open wilderness. And then Gothic 2 had that map, but it also had, like, multiple villages and 1 big city. Tons more NPCs, tons more quests, just turned everything up to 11.
I've never played Gothic, but like editing your article about it, you made it sound interesting. Like it sounded interesting and unique. Like even Eurojank can offer something interesting.
Oh, 100%. Because it's janky, because they are trying very innovative things.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of punching above their weight. That's why Eurojank is Eurojank, is because they are always like punching above their weight and trying to do cool, innovative things.
In a janky way.
In a janky way. And it turns out janky. But okay, but seriously, like I would say that Gothic and Morrowind came out around the same time, and I wouldn't say Gothic is any more janky than Morrowind.
Well, that's like Bethesda jank.
That's
kind of their house style.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's one of the reasons Gothic didn't get a huge following. I just want to kind of roll back here and just explain what Gothic is. It inspired, if you've played The Witcher 3, or even The Witcher 2 or The Witcher 1, Gothic is really a proto version of those games.
You think so? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because instead of just like a massive... Well, Witcher 3 had a massive open world, but like instead of focusing on like a big, massive open world with tons of empty little quests, it was a much smaller, more finely crafted experience.
Yeah.
Extremely dense. So you are a character, the nameless hero. So you don't create your character. You are this nameless hero. And you are tasked with, like in the first game, get this message to the mages. Or in the second game, it's like, oh, get this pendant so you can defeat the dragons. And then at that point, there are 3 to 4 factions you can join, and every faction depends on how the gameplay is. So you might join the paladins in this holy order, and you join them to go get the amulet that you need to go do what you need to do the next thing. Or you might join the mercenaries who are planning on invading the paladins, and you can steal the amulet that way. And it's like, it's very similar to what you're talking about with the immersive sims, where it's like you might go through an event, or you might get a key, or you might find a passcode. But instead of it being that one, like, different solutions to small puzzles, it's huge quest lines that are different solutions to the entire game. Like, there's a huge variety of ways that you can play through the game based on what faction that you join. Let's say New Vegas might be a similar concept.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, New Vegas would be a similar concept to that. But again, this is doing this in like 2001, 2002. The graphics aren't great, but again, they build a great atmosphere. And yeah, other than that, it's just a very, very dark fantasy medieval game. If you look it up, Gothic 1 and 2, 3 is fine, but it's really Gothic 1 and 2 were the peak of the series. But Piranha Bytes, the THQ Nordic did recently shut down Piranha Bytes. So we won't be getting... There is a Gothic 1 remake, I think, that we will be getting that's being handled by a different studio, but... Yeah, so they recently did Elix and Elix 2, which are good games, but... Gothic 1 and 2 were lightning in a bottle. They're, like, near perfection to me. And there are other games that really tried to copy that formula, but that's all they were doing is copying the formula.
That's the thing. Sometimes it's a time and place type thing, and I wonder if maybe that's kind of... who did Prey?
Arcane Studios.
Arcane Studios, thank you. Like Arcane Studios, it's just like, maybe that's the best games they're ever going to have, and it's not ever going to be that good again. Like,
I think there's still a chance for Arcane, because they have longer... Like, Gothic 1 and 2 happened in like a 2-year period. Arcane has been doing good games like that for close to a decade.
Yeah, but let's see. I think Prey came after Dishonored, but maybe before Dishonored 2.
Yeah.
I think since Dishonored 2, have they done anything good? I don't know.
I don't know, but maybe not. But Redfall's all they've done. Like they really only have one.
I think they've done a couple.
Really?
Yeah, I think they.
I think Redfall's the only like terrible thing they've done.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing I've been interested in. But honestly, like, I'm not even really interested in Dishonored. Just, like, I know it's super good. You know, like I said, my sister loves it. It just isn't my kind of vibe. It's like setting and kind of stuff. But
nope, that's completely fair. So, Zen games.
Zen games.
So we're going to talk about Zen games. Like, I feel like Zen game is a pretty broad term. Zen doesn't have to mean calming necessarily. Well, Zen does mean calming, but I'll let you go. You have a good, better interpretation or a better definition of what we mean by Zen games.
So I think it was last episode we kind of talked about this a lot. And this is a good example. What I was actually trying to think of was a game that puts you in a flow state. So if you don't know what a flow state is, it's a mental state in which a person is completely focused in on a single task or activity. They're directing all their attention toward the task, and they do not experience many thoughts about themselves or their performance. So it's like, think about the Matrix, where Neo sees the Matrix. He's just like so focused. He sees the code behind it. And I love when I find a game like that.
Yep.
So my game like that, I think we talked about it, is Magical Drop.
Yep.
It's, some people like Tetris, you got Puyo Pop, all these different kind of puzzle games, and Magical Drop is my game like that. I love it. I love Tetris. Tetris is obviously a better game, but Magical Drop mechanically basically is at the top of the screen. You have these what are they, bubbles, I guess, or balloons? I guess they're balloons of different colors. And to get the balloons to pop, you have to have 3 in a row. But if you have more than 3 in a row, they'll all pop together. And there's kind of more to that, but you basically kind of grab down balloons and throw them back up to get, pairs of 3, sets of 3. And from there, as you kind of get more and more combos, if you're playing another person, it'll send more crap to their side. Which I think stuff like Tetris, Tetris probably doesn't do that. Versions of it, Tetris. Or what is it? Tetris Attack? Is
Tetris 100 or Tetris 99?
Tetris 99. Yeah, there you go. Something like that. But So Magical Drop, I think the very first one was its kind of own arcade game, but after that they came out for the Neo Geo, which I talked about last episode.
Yep.
So I have Magical Drop 2 and 3 for the MVS.
And you have the actual carts, right?
I have the actual
carts for the cabinets.
Yep. And I love them. Besides just the mechanics of the game is super fun, it also has a really fun 90s anime aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
You have kind of all these cutesy characters and stuff, but it just reminds me, like, there's something about 90s anime kind of artwork and design that it's super nostalgic. It's comforting because it's nostalgic to me, right? And God, I just love it. Like, I love introducing people to Magical Drop so I can thrash them soundly.
And he does. It's...
But would you agree, though, that when I'm showing people games, like people like you, I will show you everything I know about it.
Yes.
I'm not trying to keep any secrets. I want you to be as good as you can be so I can play against you.
So you can win with pride.
Yeah. So you have
win with honor. Victory and honor.
You're crying like a little bitch.
There have been tears. I have wept.
Trust me, I've pissed off quite a few people playing Magical Drop, but
I love the game. I really do
so
enjoy
fun.
it. It is an excellent puzzle.
It's so good, but it is a game that I can go into a flow state where I'm just slapping the control stick around and just playing, just like totally focusing on the game. And there's not a ton of games like that. Where like there's obviously tons of games that I enjoy, but like explicitly what I described here of a flow state. That game gets me into a flow state, and I love it.
Yep.
It's good. Check it out. I think there's actually newer versions for like Switch and stuff.
Are there really?
So I don't know if it's like Magical Drop 6 came out. And it's essentially the same thing. It doesn't necessarily have the same exact vibe as the old ones, but it's the same mechanics.
I know Switch, when Switch first came out, had like a series of like Neo Geo games.
You can also play the Neo Geo ports, I think, on the Switch. But there's newer kind of modern versions of it as well. But yeah, Magical Drop, check it out.
Nice.
It's good.
So I have 2 of them, and they're really ones that I haven't played in a while, but I need to go back and play. I honestly... And I don't know, because it's weird. Obviously, ADHD is a neurodivergent disorder, so it's not the same for everybody. I feel like some people with ADHD would say the opposite of me, but with ADHD, I struggle to find a flow state. Like, I don't have a lot of games where I find that, and I think it is because of ADHD.
It is partially a concentration thing, so I could totally see that being,
Yeah, and so I don't have a ton of games that I can hit that flow state with, but there are 2 that I can think of off the top of my head that I haven't played in a while, and I really should.
I don't know what you're going to say. I have no idea. So
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is Fury.
Okay, yeah.
So Fury is it's like a top-down... It's a mix between like twin stick shooter and it's all boss fights. So there isn't, it's just you're going from one boss fight to the next, and they all have different rhythms that they can get into. It's a mix between a bullet hell and like a rhythm melee combat system. So you'll kind of circle around them in this dance, avoiding their attacks and shooting them and using special attacks. And then when you get them to a certain point, you'll close in, and then you'll do kind of a rhythm-based melee combat. All of this to the soundtrack of the incredible, prolific Carpenter Brute.
Oh, is it really?
Yep. So Carpenter Brute does the soundtrack for Fury. I don't know if he does all the songs. I think he does like a few of the songs.
He's featured on the soundtrack.
He's featured on, but like he does like at least for a couple of bosses. He does their entire boss fight soundtrack.
So people who don't know, Carpenter Brute is kind of like a very aggressive synth, like dark synth, kind of like right up my alley type of stuff. Like to kind of try to do with my music, but excellent. Like, do you have a favorite Carpenter Brute song?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Was it Turbo Killer? What's the? Oh, we got a kitty here.
We got a kitty.
Hi.
All right. Well,
we gotta say hi. Let's say hi here. This is Doyle, right?
This is Doyle.
Okay.
He is the boy.
Oh, Doyle.
What do you think?
Is he vocal at all?
He is sometimes. He's not going to be right now.
Bummer.
No.
But well, I can tell you for just our listeners, he's very cute.
He's an extremely cute cat.
Is it Yeah, is it Turbo Killers? I'm gonna have to look.
Turbo Killer is one of their songs. I don't know a lot of their songs off the top of my. They're one of those like I don't know a lot of the songs off the top of my head, but as soon as they come on, I can tell you it's Carpenter Brew. Like they have a very
Turbo Killer.
Yeah, they have a very very unique and iconic sound.
Mm-hmm. And it describes me here as dance electric and also progressive metal. So I think that's part of the reason I like him is because he is definitely metal influenced too.
Yeah.
In the same way that somebody like, Perturbator. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same way. It's kind of like EDM with a flavor of metal on it. But sorry to interrupt you there.
No, 100%. I mean, that's one of the things that puts me into the flow state is the music of that game because it is extremely, extremely good. And you just get in this dance, and that's what creates the flows. This dance of like bullet hell and avoiding and just the right time, finding just the right time to attack and do a special move, and then jumping in, and then I think that what puts it over the top is that melee combat being kind of a rhythm combat, and it's extremely good.
Have you ever played Hotline Miami? You've played.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, I have it for Vita.
Would you say that there's similarities with like? Not necessarily the exact type of gameplay, but like
there's
the music
I don't like to overuse this word, but there's a similarity in vibe. Yes,
vibe. Okay,
they have very similar vibes for sure. The second game I have to look up because it's not that I don't know it; it's that the name is weird and I don't know.
For people who haven't played Hotline Miami, the music in that is excellent, and the gameplay is also a lot of fun in ways that it really meshes together, where that can also be kind of a flow state game where you're just so into it, and the music is like pumping, and just like you're in a dance club, just like killing bad guys, and it's very good.
Okay. It's Kuru Kururin. It is for the Game Boy Advance. It's on Game Boy Advance, and it is on NSO as well if you have the NSO expansion. Kuru Kururin. And basically what it is you play this. So imagine this pencil is just spinning. That's all it is. You play a pencil that's spinning on a 2D plane like that. But every time you hit something, it'll bump and start spinning the other way. And you're trying to navigate through very thin hallways with that. And you get, the hyper focus and the dopamine that I get from that game when I get through through a certain curve that I couldn't get through. And there are power-ups and puzzles and like different things. Like down to its simple core, all you're trying to do is get through a path to the end.
Something like Operation, kind of. The board game Operation.
Yes. Right? Yeah. The Operation is a very, very good comparison. But you're just trying to fit just perfectly around these curves on this bar that's constantly spinning, and you have to control its spin. You don't have any control over the speed, and you can't tell it to spin another way at a whim. You have to hit a certain power-up to do it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, extremely, extremely good game.
Sounds really stressful, to be honest.
Yeah, so is Fury. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think stressful games put me into that flow state.
But sometimes overcoming a stressful game can be...
Yeah.
And that's like some of the appeal of Dark Souls, is overcoming something that's really hard. You just get like the best dopamine hit after that. So I totally get that.
100%. Anything else for Zen or comfort games that you can think of?
I mean, like, if we're talking about comfort games, that's kind of a different thing. So if you think about comfort games, like comfort food. It's not necessarily the best food, but it's something that...
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, where it's like good, you go back to your parents' house and they cook you something that they used to cook when you were a kid, you know? So comfort games, for me, if you want me to start here, I think I mentioned like Dark Souls. And especially the first Dark Souls game it's not my favorite one, but it's probably, as far as comfort game, it's probably top for me.
Sure.
It's because the game feels like home to play. And what I mean by that is I can almost like sit here and just like run through the whole game in my head. I've just played it that much and I know it, frontwards and back, in a way that just like playing through the game is like walking through the halls of your childhood home.
Yeah.
Kind of. Where I talked about the Sunday Scaries, I think it was the last podcast, where just like, if I just need something to just like distract myself from, being stressed about work or life or anything, it's great for that.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds weird because Dark Souls is generally considered kind of stressful, and it still can stress me out and stuff too. But I just played it enough that I couldn't play it blindfold, but like I can literally sit here and just like play it in my brain if I wanted to.
Yep.
But yeah, so, I mean, like, would you say Ocarina of Time is yours then?
It's definitely that or The Witcher 3.
Okay, yeah,
100%. But Ocarina, I don't know, of Time is definitely probably my number one. I could do the same thing where I could just sit, close my eyes, and play it in my head, like every piece. But we actually do every few years. It isn't on a specific schedule, but every few years, Brett and I will do a one-sitting playthrough of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
We have cumulatively beaten that game probably dozens of times if you take it in together.
Yeah.
And it's just so like we probably beat the entire game beginning to end without dying. I'm not trying to like throw down a gauntlet and do a challenge run, but I feel pretty confident I could probably get through that game without dying one time. I mean, it's not necessarily a skill thing. It's a very easy game, but also
it's not necessarily the most challenging game.
Yeah,
but
it's, I don't know. There's something about the game that has. I mean, what am I going to say that hasn't already been said about Ocarina of Time?
Right, but for us, we played it when we were impressionable.
Yep.
We played it when we were kids.
Perfect.
When things were
That's
more
the perfect
simple.
way to put it.
So there's also a thing with comfort food games where when Dark Souls came out when I was like 21 or something. So it's not super nostalgic for me, but like with Zelda, it takes you back to a simpler time, kind of. I'm trying to think of other games from my childhood like that, but Zelda is kind of like a big one. Something like Mega Man Legends. Mega Man Legends is another game. It's not necessarily as comfort food for me, but yeah, it just takes me back to when I was a kid, 6th grade or 5th grade or whenever I played it for the first time. Things are simple. Still live with mom and dad. Don't have to worry about bills and bullshit.
Taxes. Yeah.
Yep.
Which, if you've never played Mega Man Legends, super hidden gem. Like, okay, if you've ever wondered, what if Mega Man, but Ocarina of Time?
But Legends. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah,
and it actually
really
came
does.
out before Ocarina of Time did.
Yep.
So I think it was 97.
Yep.
Zelda was 98. But that's been one of my longtime favorites. Like
it's amazing.
If I gave like a top 3, Ocarina of Time, Earthbound or the original Mother, and Mega Man Legends. I love the game. And the way I always describe it to people, it's like, for me, when I was a kid, it was the closest thing I'd ever come to playing a Saturday morning anime.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I still love the crap out of it. Like, maybe it hasn't aged the best and stuff, but it's still very playable and it's unique.
Yeah.
Like, in my entire life, I've been looking for another game like that.
Yep.
There's not one.
No.
Not that I found.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the same. I'd say that's the same with Ocarina of Time. There are games that clearly inspired by that, but like it just does something so specific to you that is like unnameable, like, and it just you can't get that feeling from anything else. But speaking of anime,
oh yeah,
let's talk about things that got us into other things.
Yes.
This is a very broad category, but we were just kind of talking about this throughout the week, and just like things like what was our beginning of a path to one thing or another. So things that we saw that made us want to seek out more in that genre or that medium. I'll let you go first.
I think you probably have more to say about anime stuff, but for me, like, I'd just say Sailor Moon. Like, for me, and a lot of kids, it's like either kids of our generation, there's 2 anime that got you into anime. It's either Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up watching Dragon Ball Z, like, at all.
Yep.
So I think I mentioned that the people that got me into video games, actually, they were the Fishers, is their last name, and they were our babysitters growing up. Awesome people. We loved them to death, and they had 3 kids. And eventually, after the older kids had gone to college or grown up, the youngest daughter, Jill, she's the one that babysat us, and she was, I don't know if she would have been like 15, 16 when we were like 7 or 8, so like a little bit older than us, but she used to play video games with us, was super nice to us. And I remember very specifically one time, it was like, must have been 97 or something like that. We were sitting in the basement, and of course, all I wanted to do was play N64, okay? And she sat us down and she's like, okay, the show's on, we have to watch it. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And it was Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
That was the first anime I ever remember seeing. And it was just so different from like, you're watching like Scooby-Doo and stuff like that, or like Batman the animated series. And this show
no hate against Batman the animated series.
No, it's very good, but it's just
great.
different.
Yeah.
And even now, I love like the city pop vibe of that show. It just like it's a very specific look and feel. I think of like saxophones and just like very kind of like dreamy and stuff. So, well, I still have a soft spot for Sailor Moon, and my sister Megan is actually a big Sailor Moon fan too. That was like the first anime that I ever recognized as something different from what I was watching, and it got me to be more interested in that.
Yeah.
Like this is something different. You didn't know that it came from Japan. Do you remember the first anime that you watched that you realized, oh, this is a Japanese thing?
That's what I'm going to talk about.
Okay, well, there you go.
So I'll go next. So kind of a little bit more to go off of what you were talking about. So I did watch Dragon Ball Z. Mm-hmm. I would not credit Dragon Ball Z as what got me into anime. And the reason for that is, like, Dragon Ball Z was just another thing that was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw it and recognized it as something very different. And I might get some backlash for that. But, like, it was on Toonami at night. And it was cool. It was amazing. But I don't think I recognized it as something that was, like, very counterculture or very unique to other cartoons that I was watching. And it's not that it wasn't, whatever about it, my brain didn't recognize it as that. Mm-hmm. But then Adult Swim came around, and Adult Swim had Trigun.
Yep.
Trigun, I watched Trigun after Dragon Ball Z, but Trigun is really what I recognize as, oh, this is something different. Mm-hmm. This comes from somewhere else. What is this? Oh, anime? What's anime? Like, I didn't see DBZ and really make the connection of anime or know what anime was. Trigun got me into anime as I know it now. Yeah. I just think Trigun is so evocative. Like, with Trigun, there's always so much more going on than what you're seeing on screen. And there's always these hints and tells of very, very important, much bigger things that are going on with this goofy blonde-haired dude in these silly insurance ladies. And it does such... And I think Trigun is why I prefer the short-form 26-episode anime format. I do like Dragon Ball Z. I do like it. And, the loss of Akira Toriyama is one of the greatest losses to the animation and artist industry. I love DBZ, I truly do, but I just can't with hundreds. I don't want to watch hundreds of episodes.
So not to kind of cut you off here, but I've been reading through Fist of the North Star, the manga. So people don't know, Fist of the North Star predates Dragon Ball Z, but it's a very similar format where it's like the kind of baddie of the week, and you're always kind of leveling up and like, how are you going to beat this guy kind of thing. But it's much more kind of violent and adult. It's for teenagers or whatever. And it's basically, what if you took Bruce Lee, mix him with Mad Max, and drop him in the post-apocalypse, basically. But the thing that I've noticed with a lot of stuff that is like Dragon Ball Z and Fist of the North Star is it goes and it goes and goes until it's not as good anymore.
Yep.
Where something like Trigun, something like Cowboy Bebop,
it's just done and it ends on an amazing note.
They had a plan.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't have a plan, they have to wrap it up in like a decent way, It's not run it until the wheels fall off. It's like, okay, this is our story and we're done. That's why I like Cowboy Bebop is, I think, one of the best anime I've seen, but it's not my favorite. But they do such a great job of like, this is the show and that's it.
Yep. That's why, I'm sorry, but that's why Berserk should have been that. Berserk should have been that, just ended. And it didn't even have to be the Golden Age arc. The Golden Age arc was good. It could have... I liked the Millennium Falcon arc too. I liked, Black Swordsman and the Golden Age arc and the Millennium Falcon. It could have got... You know what? Maybe it could have gone 50, 60 episodes. But it's, at this point, it's just gone on too long. And I think... Yeah,
that's why I don't care about anything except for the original show and the manga, obviously. But there's been all these new.
But even the manga is just it just keeps
that's
going.
The thing is, it becomes popular, and then presumably the editors of the comic magazine say you need to keep doing this until it doesn't make money anymore, or you die.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Was it Miura?
Kento Miura.
Yeah. Kento Miura. That's what I love about the anime, and also the anime is like a complete circle.
Yeah,
it closes itself at the end.
Yep.
In such a great, satisfying way, and that's all I need.
Yep.
That was my intro to Berserk. I hadn't read the manga yet.
Yep.
I watched the show, and I was blown away.
My intro to Berserk. The
Dreamcast really?
game. Yeah, that's the first time I'd ever heard of Berserk, and you were the one that told me it was an anime.
Really?
Yep.
See, at one point, I remember being at a Sam Goody, and it was either when Sam Goody was closing or something, and they had some random volume of the anime.
Sword of the Berserk.
And I think I picked that up for you because I thought maybe it's because maybe you had seen it on Adult Swim or something, but I thought you were familiar with the actual anime. Maybe not, but
yeah. And kids, this is why you pay attention. It's my own fault, but you pay attention not just to the pictures on eBay. You look at it and you think that's the manual, but it's not. It's just the ripped off cover of the manual.
Yep, we talked about that the other episode too. Just like
Yep. Just gotta pay attention. Learn from my mistakes. As far as video games that got me into video games, I mean, there's the obvious ones. So like Ocarina of Time obviously was the first thing that, and I talked about in the last episode where it was like, I played it and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is the thing that I want to really like kind of glue on to. But the first video game that I remember playing is the old original Doom shareware disc that you could get.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, where like it didn't go through the full game, but you'd get to the end of Phobos and you'd go down this stairway and just get killed by a bunch of demons. Like you couldn't get past that.
Then you go to hell after that.
Yep, you would, but yeah, in this freeware version you couldn't get past that. So yeah, that's the first, and we had an old PC that didn't really have any, like, a sound card, but we had, something came out of the speakers. There were these really weird, like, crackly sounds that...
Did it have, like, an internal speaker, maybe?
It might have just been an internal speaker, but it was not a good, like, there was no music. Like, we couldn't hear music, but, like, there would be weird, crackly, terrible sounds sometimes. I assume that was, like, the
PC
demons.
gaming back in the day was rough, because if you didn't have the right hardware, it just wouldn't work right.
Yep, no, 100%. So Doom is the very first video game I ever played. And then I remember going over to, I talked a little bit about in the last episode, going over to Jesse's and his dad and having an NES and playing Casino Kid. So I'm summarizing a lot of what I said in the last episode, but one thing that I didn't mention is, you know, when I was about 15, 16 years old, I had kind of thought like I'd sort of plateaued in gaming, where it was like, okay, like nothing's going to grip me the way that Ocarina of Time gripped me again. I'm never going to experience that feeling of newness and that feeling of impressionability. And then I played the first Witcher. And I would say that was like my gaming reawakening. It was like my rebirth in gaming, because I just played that and it was just like nothing I had ever played where it was so focused on the story that it was telling. And it was very similar to kind of what I was talking about in Trigun, where it's like you were playing this character, but you could tell there was just so much more to this world than what it was telling, from its little subtle hints and its notes and its nuances. And it has a lot of firsts for me. It's the first PC game I ever pirated. Oh yeah, first I did buy it eventually, multiple times actually.
Wink.
No, I bought it physically. I bought a physical copy of the PC, and then I got it on Steam and GOG, I think. So I paid my dues. It's also the first PC game that I ever beat.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so yeah, the Witcher is really what continued me into adulthood and my passion for gaming and video games. And because at the end of it, and though it's not just like get me in the video games, just the Witcher series. So I remember when I beat the game and the credits rolled at the end, it said based on the works of Andrzej Sapkowski, which of course at the time I had no idea how that name was pronounced.
Polish,
very
right?
Polish,
Yeah,
very Polish. And so yeah, I was like, based on the works of what? And so I Googled it, and there were, I mean, for those of you that don't know, the Witcher video games are based on stories that have been around since the early 90s. Like it's old. Like it is a very old. It was written. There were Polish short stories written by Andrzej Sapkowski, and then he wrote a few novels as well. There were comics in Polish that we never got. We have comics now. Yeah, Dark Horse has a line of comics now. But yeah, there were lots, and it was popular, like extremely popular in Poland. They just never translated the books into English. We have them all now, obviously, but I remember at the time just going through all the wikis that I could find, and just so when the books came out, I knew so much already of the deep lore and the history of the world and things that happened, where certain characters came from. But yeah, like now The Witcher is one of my favorite pieces of fiction that exist. And so really the first Witcher did two things for me. Really cemented my gaming into adulthood and kept me impressionable and kept me excited about what can still happen in the gaming space. And kept me from plateauing, but also just got me into the Witcher series as a whole, just the broader universe of the books. And you know, I've read all of the books. I've not read all of the comics yet. I've read the full first run. There's new ones coming out that I haven't gone through, but yeah.
So I guess to piggyback on that, I think we've had this discussion in the past where we both liked Ocarina of Time. That was a very formative kind of experience, a formative game for us. And as we grew up, you know, we still love Zelda, but where you found The Witcher, which is the way that I kind of had phrased it in the past is like we found our adult Zeldas, kind of. Yeah. Where for you what gave you a kind of sense of wonder that you got from Zelda, and that you're just super into it, love the lore, all of it. For you, it was The Witcher. Yep. And for me, it was Dark Souls.
Yes, that's and we came upon those around very similar times too. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's a great way to put it.
For me, the first game in that Souls series was Demon Souls, where I didn't have a PS3 at the time, but I'd heard of this kind of weird Japanese game that came out, and it was known for being really hard and kind of weird. And I was like, oh, there's one thing that I like, and it's weird stuff. Okay, I think at the end of the episode we can talk about this, but I just showed Joan Videodrome, the movie Videodrome.
Oh yeah,
have you ever seen Videodrome?
I've never seen it, but you've talked about it.
Super weird. I love it. I love things that are weird. Yeah. Even if they're not perfect. And this is kind of what those Demon Souls games sounded like. And eventually, they came out with a new game called Dark Souls, where it's not necessarily a sequel, but it's kind of a spiritual successor. Yep. But it's the same gameplay, same kind of vibe type thing. And I remember the first time I ever played it was I rented it from a Redbox. Yeah. And I played it, and I wasn't really used to like the fantasy RPG. It's a Japanese game, but it's a Japanese take on Western fantasy, right? So, you know, a perfect way to describe it is Miyazaki is the guy who's kind of responsible for the series, the father of the series. Yep. He would get D&D monster manuals and other RPG manuals, but he couldn't read English. So he'd read these manuals and just kind of make up his own things for them.
That's right? So cool.
So he took that and brought it into Dark Souls, where it's a Japanese take on Western fantasy, and I love it. It's kind of dark fantasy, and it's super. It doesn't hold your hand, and this is at a time too where games were very hand-holdy.
Yeah, this is
This is kind of the transition to where you no longer really had a manual as much as they would have tutorials in the game where they just hold your hand through crap. And I was just getting tired of that. I didn't like that trend at all. And Dark Souls is just like, no, we don't care if you understand this game. You're gonna figure it out. And there's gold. There's gold in our hills. You know?
Yep.
It's great.
There's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
The dark, bloody, tank-covered, pus-infested rainbow.
And not to trivialize abuse at all, but the example I gave people trying to describe why I liked it was like dating a really hot girl that you're just way into, and you're just like, you love her, she's hot, but every once in a while she just slaps the shit out of you. And you know what? Eventually, you're kind of into it, you know?
Yeah.
That's exactly what Dark Souls was like for me initially. And it was...
do not condone abuse or physical.
Exactly. I'm not trying to show
This is a
abuse,
very loose metaphor.
It's the example that I used to give people back in the day.
Yep. It makes sense. It's apt.
But for me, when I originally played Ocarina of Time, it's just like you don't really know everything you can do. It doesn't really tell you exactly how to do certain things, especially when you're a kid. You know, you're not picking up on certain things. And it gave me the same kind of vibes that I got originally with Ocarina of Time. Oh, yeah. You know? So for me, that was my adult Ocarina of Time.
Yep.
Where it was, it's still kind of fantasy. It's obviously an offspring of Ocarina of Time as far as like lock-on and strafing and that kind of thing. Like, and just like the lore, it's the same kind of thing. And this is a part of the reason that like someone like Lovecraft is so good at world building. Yep. It's like you can tell that in their mind they have everything laid out, right? They have all the lore in their mind, but they're only going to give you little snippets of stuff.
Yes.
And for me, that is the best kind of world building. Yes. Where you don't give them all the stuff. You can tell that there's something else going on behind the scenes, like Trigun. Yep. Right? There's stuff in Trigun that it's just never, especially in the anime. I'm not sure about the manga, but like it's just never explained. Yep. So it's just like, it's just like this cool mystery. The mystery is almost always cooler than the truth.
Than what you're getting. Yeah,
kind of. Like in a certain way.
Yeah, 100%.
So for Dark Souls, that was it for me. Like, and it was, on top of all of that, Dark Souls is challenging. You have to work for your wins. You have to beat your head. Another good example is, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a certain episode of Doctor Who, and I'm not a giant Doctor Who fan, but I've seen some of it, where the Doctor is stuck in a room, like a glass room, and it's like a really thick wall that he has to get through, and he spends thousands of years like just running into this wall to crack the wall open.
Is that old Doctor Who?
It's not old Doctor Who.
I'm not familiar with that episode.
You see, they like have to run into it or punch it, and it's kind of like that. It's like you have to beat your head on this wall forever until you just finally get it, and when you finally crack through and your head is lumpy and bloody and you have concussions, you finally break through it. That is some of the best dopamine I've ever got out of a video game, and I love it.
Yep, 100%.
And after that, in the same way that The Witcher kind of changed your outlook on games, Dark Souls changes that for me. It's just like I find it like
elevated video games.
It elevated it, where it's just like, I love the challenge. I love trying to figure out how to get through this. Yeah. And then in kind of later, From Software, FROM Software, it's kind of a stupid name for a company. Yeah. They're the ones that make the Souls series. And then later they have games like Sekiro or Bloodborne, where you still kind of are leveling up and stuff, but they're a lot more skill based, where you can't just grind yourself out of situations. Yep. So especially like Sekiro, there'd be bosses that I would have to grind my skill. Yeah. Not even just like in-game, points and stuff like that. I have to learn this boss inside and out, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I remember there was bosses I would have to grind for days. And
not grind experience points, like you said, grinding your Twitch abilities.
Your reaction times, your kind of recognizing the enemy's attacks and what you need to do. And that's I don't like hack and slash games. Yeah. I understand games like Devil May Cry and stuff are good. Yeah. But I don't really like them. Sure. Dark Souls is a lot more deliberate, and you watch what the enemy's doing and you react to that accordingly. Yep. So you can't be reckless in those games. You have to be kind of plodding through them and just be very careful and whatnot. And
dude, you can even you'll get your shit wrecked by like minor enemies if you're not careful. If you're not thinking about it, any little skeleton has the potential to like murk you. Yeah. Yep. 100%. Love it. One thing that you're talking about, and this isn't really lore, and I don't know why I think about it. I don't know what brought this up, but because I'm thinking about it, I want to talk about it. Is Gothic. I would say, honestly, Gothic didn't do it, but if it weren't for Gothic, I might not have gotten into The Witcher. Like, Gothic is also like kind of a proto... I said that earlier. It's kind of a proto-Witcher. And this kind of goes... It kind of ties into the lore as well. The thing that I like about how quests work in the Gothic series and other Piranha Bytes games like that is the quest will be find out about the missing people. That's it. That's the quest. But then there will be other quests that will be like, oh, this pirate is trying to find this bandit. And we're like, okay, well, I'll help this pirate find this bandit. And you go find the bandit, and the bandit's like, oh, you'll never find these people. And you'll just be like, oh, wait, this bandit has something to do with that larger quest line.
And interconnecting.
And it's very interconnected. The way that, like, a Metroidvania interconnects its maps, Gothic interconnects its quests in the most clever and satisfying ways. You can also break the game because of that. I think with newer iterations you can't, but because they were trying so hard to weave in their quests and their narrative, if you do something too early or do something on accident outside of a quest, it can break the game. I don't think like in the Switch version you can do that as much because it's been refined over many years. But that kind of ties into that idea of the lore being bigger than what it's telling you, is you will be playing the game and it will just, the way that the quests tie into each other is just extremely clever. Something you said made me think about that, and I wanted to bring that up.
I mean, and there's a reason that more games don't do that is because it's hard.
Yeah.
Like I'm not surprised that things like that break the game, you know?
Yep.
It's like they're trying to do something very complicated and cool.
Yep.
And it's hard, you know?
Yeah. I don't get me wrong, like I do like Skyrim, and I do like, I mean, even The Witcher 3 nowadays is like, follow this quest marker to this point, but every once in a while you'll get a game that's brave enough to not, like, Kingdom Come Deliverance is a really good example of this. It has quest markers, but they're broad areas to go to. But yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance is another game that doesn't hold your hand. That's really, really good.
And I'm not a huge fan of the Elder Scrolls series, but that's one thing that I kind of admire Morrowind. Yeah, it's not quest markers. It's just like
a journal.
It's a journal. It's just like, hey, at this point in the road, there's a tree that looks like this. Go find it.
Yep,
I love that. It's just like, don't hold my hand. Yes. Do not hold my hand.
No, 100%.
I'm not a child.
I don't necessarily mind hand holding as long as it doesn't
be appropriate. Yeah.
For me, okay, so I'll wrap up with this thought.
Okay.
And I won't get too deep into it. For me, immersion is what is important for me. So as long as the hand holding doesn't break immersion, I can deal with it.
Okay.
But like a giant glowing pillar of light in the middle of a city, that breaks immersion. But if you want to tell me, if you want to have a character tell me, oh, you can finish diegetically, as we talked about in a previous episode, if you have a character diegetically tell me, oh, go to this shopkeeper at the end of the road and he will give you the answer you need. That's diegetic. I'm fine with that. That doesn't break immersion. So you can do hand holding in clever ways.
Yeah.
And that doesn't.
It can be appropriate, and there's games where that's fine. But like something like Dark Souls, where it's more about you poking the corners of the shadows, kind of for the answers. Love it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of completed all of our topics, and thank you again.
So let's see here. I think we had. Okay, just want a casual talk at the end here.
Shoot! What do you got for me?
Well, so we watched Videodrome. So you've never watched Videodrome before?
Oh yeah.
Have you ever watched any David Cronenberg movies that you know of? Like
I've seen
The Fly.
No, I've seen like clips of The Fly, but I've never seen full.
He does weird stuff, and a lot of it's like weird body horror stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think the thing is, I'm very sensitive to body horror.
Yeah,
I don't. Okay. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. Like, I wish I was brave enough to watch that, but
Videodrome is like, just to sum it up, kind of. It's basically like James Woods. So James Woods is the producer or something of a TV station, and he's trying to find kind of like edgy stuff to put on his TV channel. So he's picking up like weird pirate TV stations from other countries and stuff. And eventually he finds one that's basically just like a snuff film, kind of. And he's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be my new thing. And it kind of turns into like a weird like video cults, like video religion kind of thing. And some of my favorite horror is technology mixed with horror. So think like the Ring. The Ring. Yep. That's why
I love The Ring,
especially Ringu, which is the Japanese version of it. I love it because it's it's like VHS tapes and TV and stuff mixed with horror. I love that. I eat that up. So yeah.
Yep.
Super good. I don't know if you saw, I had a Facebook status that was
yes.
Long Live the New Flesh.
Yeah, that's
that?
From
Videodrome.
Okay, Emily actually saw that, and I was like...
I'm sure people thought I was a lunatic after like posting that, but me and Joan had just finished watching that, and that's kind of like what people...
No, we already know you're a lunatic.
Oh, yeah. I'm a cool lunatic.
Cool lunatic. An edgy hipster lunatic.
But no, at the end of the movie, that's kind of like what the cult is saying is their motto, long live the new flesh, blah, blah, blah. But have you seen any good movies lately? Or?
Oh, man. Well, I don't know about right now, but you talking about it makes me kind of want to talk about cigarette burns.
Yeah.
So, like, Cigarette Burns is my favorite horror movie of all time. It's
really?
Probably. Okay. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top.
Okay. Do you have it?
Event Horizon?
I need to borrow it if you have it. Okay.
I believe I have it. Event Horizon is another one that's good. At the top of mine.
Space horror is another good one that I like.
Yes. Another one of my favorites, it's kind of like Event Horizon. It's called Pandorum.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Space Horror is really good. Pandorum, Event Horizon. But to talk about Cigarette Burns, it's a somewhat similar idea where this guy that works at a theater is trying to find this super hidden movie to play at his theater, like a lost film. Which I mean, the idea of lost film in general is just so cool.
Give me that as well. Yep.
And he just kind of goes, it's like the definition of a rabbit hole film where this guy's just going down this rabbit hole and he's seeing more horrors and atrocities and these people who will literally kill and die to try and find this film. But he keeps having this idea, well, I'm just going to go to the next idea. It's just a movie. It's not going to do that to me. Spoiler alert, it does it to him.
I forget how it ends, but...
Oh, well, we got to watch it again.
I'm a huge horror movie person. Like, I love movies, but horror movies are my favorite.
There is some body horror in Cigarette Burns, but it doesn't bother me.
So it's hard to talk about horror movies sometimes because it's like, yeah, that was a really cool like kill or how they did that. So
yeah.
Cigarette Burns has one of my favorite horror movie deaths of all time. I don't know if I want to go into it too far, but like,
is it the one where he meets the like guy in the garage, like the
production booth?
Yes.
It's that one. So maybe I'll be vague about it, but basically this guy removed some of his internal organs with a video projector or a film projector. I mean, obviously
that's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of the one where he drives to the garage to meet that guy. Yeah, never mind.
I don't remember that part, but obviously real world violence. I'm way against real world violence, but there's something about horror violence. It's just like there's a creativity to it.
Well, especially when a director or a production team uses practical effects to really sell it. Yep. Like you see the work that goes into it. Like I love claymation. Oh, yeah. We can talk a little bit about what's that claymation movie that we watched together?
Old Gods.
Old Gods.
Let me. Because I have a song called Old Gods. Was it called Old Gods?
Anyways, we'll find the name, but this is this like claymation movie, and it's purposefully obtuse and very abstract. The story that's going on isn't clear, which really feeds into what we were talking about Dark Souls. Is there's clearly a lot more than what the movie is telling you, but it's basically about these people that send an individual into hell or down deep, and he keeps going through these different layers of this hellish underground world. And it's one of those movies, by the end, you're literally looking at it and you're like, I don't know what I just watched, but I know that I loved it. I loved every second of what I just watched.
So it's not Old Gods. What is it?
It's
Mad God. So
Mad Gods.
Mad God. Yep. So it was done by, I forget what the guy's name was.
He did a lot of RoboCop, and
he's very famous.
He's done
special
Star
effects.
Wars.
Yes, he's a famous special effects guy. And he basically did his own horror claymation movie.
Yeah.
Mad God. Let's see who it was. Phil Tippett.
Yep.
So that's another good one. It just has like a crazy vibe to it. And all the claymation is really impressive. But yeah, I can appreciate a good horror movie death. Like, I think, what was the movie that Emily likes? It's a really gory horror movie that we were talking about.
Dead Alive? Yeah.
Is it Dead Alive? I think it has different I think it has different titles based on the region, but
All
that's
right,
another.
I'll look it up while you talk.
So another. Again, this probably makes me sound like a lunatic, but there's a great kill in there where it's about zombies basically, and this guy takes a lawnmower. Brain dead. So is it Brain Dead and Dead Alive?
I think Dead Alive is what she says.
Yeah, it has different.
The director of Dead Alive?
Yep.
Peter Jackson.
That Peter Jackson.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings, King Kong, Peter Jackson.
Yep. So as I described this, think about Peter Jackson. This guy picks up a push lawnmower and turns it on somehow and walks into a group of zombies with it above his head and just like mows through their heads with a lawnmower. It's great.
Have you seen Reanimator?
Yes. Oh.
I haven't seen it, but it just came up with that.
Oh my god. Okay. So I'm a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan too, and obviously H.P. Lovecraft is problematic. I feel like anybody who talks about it has to talk about this. Yep. But so Reanimator,
his output was amazing.
Yeah, his what he wrote. If you can separate the author from the work, whatever. But so there's the movie Reanimator. It's like a 1980s horror movie, super schlocky B movie. It's raunchy, it's violent, but it's great. I forget what the guy who plays Herbert West is amazing in this movie. He's like a mad scientist. It's kind of like a modern day retelling of like a Frankenstein kind of story, but that movie is based off of a H.P. Lovecraft story called Herbert West Reanimator, and it is, I think it's probably my favorite H.P. Lovecraft story. It's basically about this guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, Shadow over Innsmouth.
That's a good one too, but there's something about this one where it's just like Herbert West is just so intent on his goal of just reanimating people.
Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein, exactly. It's just like without any regard to like, humanity, ethics or anything. He's just like doing horrific stuff. When I did my trip up to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, I'm a creepy weirdo, so I like to do creepy weirdo stuff. Yeah. So I went and visited the grave of Ed Gein, who is like a horrible ghoul person. Yeah. He I don't know necessarily he was a serial killer, but he like was a grave robber. He's what partially like Silence of the Lambs is based off of and stuff. And I visited his grave, not as like to memorialize him, just to see it because it's just interesting. And his house where all this horrible stuff happened is since burned down. But you could go to that lot, and I drove around the road where that lot was, just the whole time listening to Herbert West Reanimator, and it was a vibe, man. Like, it was great.
Rain coming down, I have to assume, because it's Michigan. Or it's probably snowy, wasn't it?
So it was near it actually was on Valentine's Day.
That's right.
So it wasn't snowing at that point, but all the trees are dead and stuff. It was great.
I need to go out and do something like that. I haven't. For reasons unknown to the audience, I did not want to be here for Valentine's Day, so I'm like, I'm going to make a creepy, weird trip of it, and I did. I went and wrote some horror of my own up in the Upper Peninsula there. Can I put that on the website? We can put it under authors. Yeah, we can put it. We have on the website, Gamerbuzz.org, we have a writer's choice section where it's just like anything the writer wants to put. So I'll put a link in the description on YouTube or wherever this is on. I can't really do it on Spotify or SoundCloud. But if you just go to Gamerbuzz.org, we will put the stuff up there. He wrote a really excellent horror story that is a lot of fun to read.
I think did I name it The Stygian Man?
Yes.
Yeah. So Stygian, it just means something that's very black or dark. Like the Stygian abyss, you know.
A lot of times related to the ocean, which
so I basically went up to the Upper Peninsula and stayed right off Lake Superior as kind of inspiration for my horror movie, my horror short story that I wrote.
We could turn it into a short film. I'm getting into video editing and recording now.
That would be cool. Yeah. It wouldn't be too hard. It's a very short story. It's maybe 2
There's
pages.
One part that would be hard, but you can figure it out.
Yeah. Maybe you could animate it somehow.
Yeah.
But it's basically 2.5 pages of like printer paper, so it's not very long. But appreciate it. I didn't think about putting it on the website. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop talking about creepy stuff.
No, that's A-okay. I
could have a whole podcast about creepy stuff, to be honest, because I'm a creep. So
there's some ideas that can make that work.
Maybe like scary video games or something would be a good podcast too. So
I'm gonna send off here just for the sake of time. Again, thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
And Seth, thank you for all the hard work you put in this podcast so far. Episode 3,
no problem.
I'd also like to thank my parents for listening to the podcast and being very supportive of us.
Thank you. Yes,
if you watch this to the end, appreciate it.
Yes,
Dad, I've got the Colonel Chamberlain mustache just for you, and nobody else is understand this but him. So, all right, signing off.
I don't have a. I feel like all the good YouTubers and podcasts have like good send offs. I don't have one, so insert send off here.